Let's start off with the LA Angels, and I got Christian Moore. The Angels picked him at number 8 in the draft this year after going off this past season at Tennessee, hitting like an absolute monster in the College World Series. But in 35 AB so far in AA, he's hitting .543 with an OPS of 1.693. This guy's an absolute madman. I think he's going to be the Angels' best player in 5 years. Up next, I have Yordon Alvarez, and he's already one of the best players in the game at 27 years old. He ranks in the top 10 in WRC Plus this year, and I think when he's 32, he'll still be on top of his game before we start to see a dip in his numbers. Now, the question is, will he still be an Astro in 5 years, because his contract is up after 2028. The Astros have worked out extensions before, so I think they'll work something out. If he does end up leaving, though, I'll go with the number 1 prospect, Jacob Melton, a guy who's a legit power speed threat. For the Oakland A's, I'm going to go a bit outside the box here and go with a guy they just drafted in Nick Kurtz. In 5 years, I would imagine Mason Miller's probably going to be elsewhere, and Brett Rooker is going to be in his mid-30s. Who knows if he's even going to be there as well. But Kurtz, on the other hand, he was a monster at Wake Forest, had over a 500 on-base percentage over 3 seasons. He's got legit power at all fields, power that kind of reminds me of a former Oakland A's slugger by the name of Jason Giambi. I don't know if you know him. I expect Kurtz to move quickly through the A's system, and I think he's going to be a special player. For the Blue Jays, I got Vlad Jr. Now, I know a couple of things have to happen here. 1, he can't get traded, and 2, he needs to sign an extension to stay there. Now, I think at some point, since he's expressed a desire to stay in Toronto, I think something gets worked out. As for his numbers, though, well, he looks like he's back on track to what he was doing a few years ago in 2021. So far, he's hitting .319 with a .392 on base, a .543 slugging, a .162 WRC plus, 23 home runs. He's back to being one of the best hitters in the game, and I think he still will be in 5 years. Up next for the Braves, I have Ronald Acuna Jr. Now, it was tough to see him go down this year with his second ACL tear, but we all know the talent this guy has. He had a historical season last year, and he's still only going to be 31 in 5 years. I can see a lot of people saying, nah, he's going to have too many injuries, but I think when he comes back, they're going to manage his workload more closely, get him off his legs a little bit, cut down on the stolen bases, and he'll end up being just fine. I think he's still going to be one of the better hitters in the game in 5 years. For the Brewers, I have Jackson Chourio, the number 2 prospect coming into this year. Got off to a bit of a slow start, but he's been great lately. He's hitting .302 with an .894 OPS over his last 30 games. This guy has a bright future, possessing all 5 tools. He'll only be 25 years old in 5 years, too. That is mind-boggling. For the Cardinals, I'm going to go with their first-round pick from this year's draft in J.J. Weatherhole. I know they just drafted him, but this guy for a while was looking like the possible number 1 pick. He's an all-around good hitter. As you can see here, has a 65 hit tool with a 55 power. He's extremely disciplined at the plate, and already in a small sample size in the minor leagues so far this year, he leads in expected WOBA with a .492. His average exit velocity is looking solid at 92.6. I think Weatherhole, he's going to be very good, and I think he's going to move quickly through this Cardinals organization. For the Cubs, I got Matt Shaw. Here's another outside the box one, and you know, I'm a big Matt Shaw guy. At this point, he's the Cubs' number 2 prospect, and he's been solid this year. Before getting called up to AAA, he was playing well at AA, hitting .279 with a .373 on base and a .468 slugging with 14 home runs and 25 stolen bases. This guy's just a good, gritty ball player, and I think he's going to be really solid in 5 years' time. For the D-backs, I got Corbin Carroll, and I know, he had a bad start to the year, not great numbers overall, but lately, he's hitting a lot better, and I think he's going to end up being fine. Now, when it comes to his expected numbers and the batted ball data, they haven't been amazing this year, but when you take a look at the bat speed as well as the plate discipline numbers, including chase percentage, whiff percentage, strikeout, and walk percentage, they're all still really solid, and you got to remember here, he's still only 23 years old. I think he's going to be fine once he gets back into the lab this offseason to work out the kinks. He's going to be a really good player down the road. For the LA Dodgers, I know this one might seem like an easy pick, but I'll stick with Shohei Otani. In 5 years, you got to remember, he's going to be 35 years old, so who knows what the numbers are going to be like at that point? Will we start to see some regression at the plate? Who knows how his arm is going to be on the mound? But I think considering how elite he is today, I expect him to still be one of the best hitters in the game and possibly still one of the best pitchers in the game. For the Giants, I got Elliot Ramos, and man, oh man, has he busted out onto the scene this year, and he's only just about to turn 25 years old. Now, in 2030, he's going to be in his prime, and while I'm not the biggest fan of the higher strikeout numbers and the lower walk numbers, I predict he'll work on that over the next few years, and I expect those to improve. As for the expected and batted ball numbers, he ranks very well in most of them, and I expect that he's still going to be very strong in 5 years' time. For the Guardians, let's go with the number 1 pick from this year's draft, Travis Bazan. Yeah, this guy is going to be a stud. At Oregon State, his batted ball numbers and the plate discipline ranked near the top of all of college baseball last year, and he'll throw in some good speed as well. So it wasn't really surprising to see him go number 1. And sure, Cleveland, they got Jose Ramirez. Obviously, he's very good. He's very good every year. But in 5 years' time, he's going to be 37 years old. So I wonder what the production is going to be looking like at that point. And his contract is up after 2028. So will he still be with the Guardians at that point? I don't know. I know there's a lot of other young talent there in Cleveland, but Bazan, he's easily going to be their best player. Up next, I have Julio Rodriguez for the Mariners. I know J-Rod's having a tough year this year, but we all know what he can do when he's healthy, and he has everything right. Now, another thing, too, is even though his surface numbers haven't been great, all of his expected numbers have been pretty solid for the most part. You see a lot of reds here. He just needs to clean up the plate discipline numbers. Overall, though, I think J-Rod's going to get this all cleaned up, and I think he's going to be one of the brightest stars in the game in 5 years. For the Marlins, I have Davison De Los Santos. They're now number 6 prospect who they just got back in the AJ Puck trade. Now, the power potential with De Los Santos is very real. He's already got 33 home runs this year between AA and AAA, and he's already got 5 home runs with the Marlins after getting traded there over 13 games, for crying out loud. Now, with De Los Santos, the strikeout numbers are a little bit high, but he has cleaned it up a little bit over the last couple of years. I think he's going to end up being a solid bat for Miami. For the Mets, I'm going to go with Francisco Alvarez. I could see a lot of people going with Francisco Lindor, but in 5 years, he's going to be 35 years old, and I wonder what the bat's going to look like at that point. But with Alvarez, he's only 22 years old, and while he has missed time this year, he had 25 home runs last year, and he's shown how good he is behind the plate. I think he's going to be so good in 5 years. On to the Nationals, and I'm going to go with Dylan Cruz, the number 3 prospect in all of baseball, and as of right now, he's in AAA, but it looks like he's going to make his Major League debut before the end of the season, according to Mark Zuckerman, a Nationals beat writer. Now, he's been solid in the minor leagues this year between AA and AAA. He's hitting 270 with a 343 on base, a 798 OPS overall. He's also made some adjustments after going to AAA. He brought his strikeout percentage down, and he's also gotten the walks up a little bit. Now, I also do want to mention James Wood. I think he could end up posting better offensive numbers than Cruz in 5 years' time because the batted ball data and the bat speed rank really well in a very small sample size after getting called up to the major leagues, and he walks a good amount too. But I think Dylan Cruz, I think he's going to be the better all-around player because he's such a good defender out in center field. For the Orioles, I'm going to go with Gunnar Henderson, and this fella is having a stupid good year, and it's crazy to think he's still only 23 years old, for crying out loud. He's hitting 290, has a 376 on base, a 553 slugging, a 161 WRC+, a 6.4 Fangraph WAR, and it's only the middle of August, for crying out loud. What the heck is going on? Now, in 5 years, he's going to be in his prime, so yeah, I easily think he's going to be one of the best players in the game at that time. Now, there is a small wrinkle here. He is a free agent after 2028, and I mean, if he keeps playing like this, he's going to get himself a fat payday. Now, as of right now, if he were to sign a 10-year deal, you're probably looking at something around 10 years, 350, maybe even up to 370. Now, the question is, will the Orioles pay him that? I'm not sure. So, if he ends up going elsewhere, I'll go with Jackson Holliday. Now, I know he struggled after coming up this year, but I think Jackson Holliday, he's going to be a solid player once he gets everything ironed out. He's already hit 5 home runs since coming back up from the minor leagues. He's shown extremely good plate discipline at AAA this year. He had a 431 on base, a really good walk percentage there. I think Jackson Holliday is going to be a really good player, but if Gunnar Henderson is still with the Orioles at that time, I think he will be their best player. Moving on to the Padres, I'm going to go with Fernando Tatis Jr., and I know, he's had some injuries this year, but I think in 5 years' time, he's going to be fine. And this year, while he has missed some time, his overall slash line is better compared to last year, and all of his expected numbers are ranking very high this year, and the batted ball data is ranking pretty solid too. Now, I think you could also make an argument for Jackson Merrill as well, because he's putting up some great numbers in his rookie season, but for now, Tatis, he has a slight edge when it comes to the batted ball data, so I'm going to stick with him. I think he's going to be one of the best players in the game in 5 years. For the Phillies, I'm going to go with Bryce Harper, and I'll be honest, this one was kind of tough because the Phillies are in a competitive window right now, but in 5 years, all of their top players are going to be over 35 years old. Now, Harper at that time is going to be almost 37 years old, old, but he is a first baseman and a DH at this point, so he should still be pretty durable at that time. Now, there have also been some players recently who've been very productive in their later years, including Hall of Famer Adrian Beltre, who was 37 when he posted a Fangraph wins above replacement above 5 in 2016, and there was Joey Votto back a few years ago who was 37 years old. He had 36 home runs, a 140 WRC plus. Now, I think Harper fits into that mold, very similar to Joey Votto. I think he's still going to be very productive in 5 years' time. For the Pirates, I'm going to go with Paul Skeens. I mean, at this point, with how good Skeens has been this year in his rookie year, can you imagine how good he's going to be in 5 years? He's got a 2.25 ERA, a 2.73 FIP. He's striking out 11 batters per 9. He's walking under 2 batters per 9 as well. That's a great strikeout to walk ratio. Insane numbers. He very well could be the best pitcher on the planet in 5 years' time. For the Rangers, I'm going to go with Wyatt Langford. And all right, I'm going to be accountable here. I made a bold take before the season saying that Wyatt Langford was going to finish top 5 in AL MVP voting. Well, fellas, that hasn't gone exactly to plan, but I still think this guy's going to be a stud muffin in 5 years, especially when he's entering his prime at that point. Now, while his surface numbers haven't been amazing this year, there's still some positives to look at, including the bat speed. First off, he ranks really well there, and he is showing some pretty solid plate discipline, doesn't swing and miss all that much. I think it's just a matter of time before this guy puts it all together. Moving on to the Rays, I'm going to go with Junior Camero, the current number 2 prospect in all of baseball, and he did miss a good chunk of time this year due to a quad injury, but he should be up at some point, either by the end of this year or should be with the Rays at the beginning of next year. There's a reason this guy is ranked 3rd overall among all prospects. He's just a good all-around hitter with a lot of power to all fields. He actually ranked 6th overall in exit velocity in all of AAA this year. He does need to clean up the plate discipline a little bit. I think in 5 years' time, though, he's going to have that more under control. For my Red Sox, I'm going to go with Marcelo Meyer, and in 5 years' time, the number 6 prospect in all of baseball will only be 26 years old, and he's already showing a ton of upside in the minor leagues this year, while also showing a lot of good adjustments, which was more than enough to just get called up to AAA recently. In 77 games at AA, he hit .307 with a .370 on base and .850 OPS overall. He cut down on the strikeouts this year from around 26% last year to just under 20% this year, but he's also upping his walks at the same time. The exit velo has gotten better this year. Simply put, I think he's going to be the next great shortstop for the Red Sox. And you might be thinking, why not Rafael Devers? He's one of the best hitters in the game today, but in 5 years' time, when he's 32 years old, I'm really wondering what that defense is going to look like. His defense is not very good today, and I think in 5 years, he's going to be more of a DH at that point. So I think the bat is going to be really good, but I think Marcelo Meyer is going to be the better overall player. For the Reds, I'm going to go with Ellie De La Cruz, and yeah, this one was easy. This guy is just a freak. He's on pace to hit 25 home runs while also stealing 70 bases. He also has a WRC plus, just under 130 so far, and he's only 22 years old. He's going to be just going into his prime in 5 years' time. My goodness, what the heck is this guy going to be doing in 5 years? On to the Rockies, and I'm going to go with Jordan Beck. Now, he did break his hand this year, and he did miss a good chunk of time for that, unfortunately, but before that, he was hitting really well at AAA. That earned him a call up to the Rockies. Now in AAA this year, over 39 games, he was hitting .319, had a .402 on base, a .558 slugging. He also cut down on the strikeouts from last year at around 32% to around 23% this year, and he walks a really good amount. I think Jordan Beck, he's going to be a solid player for the Rockies. For the Royals, I got Bobby Witt Jr., and here's another easy one, and yeah, this guy is going to be one of the biggest stars in the game in 5 years' time. He's already a big star, for crying out loud. Now, if it wasn't for Aaron Judge and the stupid good year he's having, Witt would probably be winning the MVP. He has an 8.1 FWAR, and it's only the middle of August, for crying out loud. He's hitting .347, a .394 on base, a .604 slugging, a .171 WRC plus, 22 home runs, 25 stolen bases. He's ranked 1st overall in defense in all of Major League Baseball at shortstop. This guy is just stupid good. On to the Tigers, and I got Jackson Jobe, the current number 10 prospect in all of baseball. This guy is just filthy. He's been tearing it up in the minor leagues this year. So far, between high A and double A over 14 starts, has a 2.22 ERA, over 10 strikeouts per 9. Now, the walks have been a little bit of an issue at double A this year, over 5 walks per 9 through 11 starts there. That hasn't really been a big issue for him, though, in the minor leagues in his career, so I think he's going to get that cleaned up at some point. This guy's stuff is just off the charts. The velo is great. He's going to be the ace of the Tigers in 5 years' time. For the Twins, I'll go with the number 12 prospect on MLB pipeline, Brooks Lee. Lee was drafted 8th overall a couple of years ago, and all this guy has done is just hit. I mean, he was so good in college. There were talks of him being the number 1 pick overall at one point, but in 186 games over 3 years in the minor leagues, he's hit .292 and .844 OPS, 27 home runs. He's very patient at the plate, doesn't strike out a whole bunch. Yeah, he's still trying to figure it out in the major leagues, but I think in 5 years' time, he's going to be really good. For the White Sox, I'll go with Noah Schultz, the number 2 prospect on Pipeline and number 1 prospect on Baseball America. Now, I would have gone with Colson Montgomery, the number 1 prospect on Pipeline, but right now, he's having a tough year. That's looking a little murky. His numbers have taken a big dip at AAA this year after not getting a lot of development time at AA. So we'll see what happens there. But for Schultz, he is pitching great this year. He has a 2.61 ERA over 18 starts between AA and high A ball. He's got nasty stuff, good velo from the left side. I think there's a good chance he's going to be the White Sox ace in 5 years. And last but not least, for the Yankees, I'm going to go with Juan Soto. Now, there's 2 predictions in one here. The first being that I think the Yankees end up re-signing him this offseason. They need to do whatever they can to keep him in the Bronx for the rest of his career, and I think in 5 years' time, he's going to be their best hitter. Of course, Judge, he's having a crazy year, but Judge is going to be 37 years old in 5 years' time. Soto is also having a great year, actually the best year of his career so far. He's hitting .304, a .429 on base, a .589 slugging, a .186 WRC+, a 6.9 F4. These numbers are insane, and in 5 years' time, he's going to be 30 years old. He's going to be in the prime of his career. I think he ends up being the best player on the Yankees in 5 years' time. But everyone, that's all I got for this video. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Would you pick another player for your favorite team? Let me know what you think. But everyone, that's all I got. If you can on the way out, hit that like button for me, subscribe if you're new, and I'll talk to you next time.